A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us on this first edition of this week of the Evening Review. My name is Evangelical, your host. Tonight on the platform, we are welcoming back a regular visitor, that is Bishop Lukas Kaluwapa Katenda. He is, of course, Bishop of the Reformed Evangelical Anglican Church in Namibia, Reach Namibia in short, and he's here to help us as we continue as a country to mourn and assess the legacy of late Founding President Sam Nujoma. And we felt that one of the key players in the liberation struggle that might have worked closely with the late Nujoma is the Namibian Church. And Bishop Katenda is here to help us understand that role. Thank you, Bishop, for your time. The first thing that, in fact, it's so timely that you came around because in 2008 you wrote a book titled "Contribution of the Anglican Church in Namibia to the Struggle for Namibia's Independence from South Africa." If you can walk us, not in so many words, in that role that your church played.
Yeah, that was actually my mini thesis for my master's degree.
Okay, yeah.
At the Virginia Theological Seminary in the USA.
Yeah.
Yeah, the church would say was the gate opener, was the master key, if you like, to open the way for people to understand outside world, and also to mobilize people as we have them then, to forge protest against the apartheid laws. Why am I saying this? Is because in the northern part of Namibia, most importantly, in the southern part, in the northeastern part, it was the church who is the pioneer in education, in health, and therefore, if you talk of education, you are also talking just of the opening of the minds of the people. The Anglican Church in particular, we know the story of the Reverend Michael Scott. I started right there. The Reverend Michael Scott was a priest in the Diocese of Johannesburg, and he heard of the people in Bechuanaland who survived the onslaught of the German genocide. That is the Herero community, in Bechuanaland. So he visited them, and there he was informed that, no, we are just here, we are remnants of those who were exterminated. Our king or our chief is on the other side of the border, that is within Southwest Africa. So he came then to see and speak to Chief Hosea Kutako, and that is where you hear the first petition to the newly born United Nations around 1947, 1948 there, is when Michael Scott took the words of Chief Kutako, put them on the paper as the chief was speaking, and this petition, Michael was able to take it through the Indian delegation because they were refusing him a chance to address the committee. So through the Indian delegation, he was able to reach the committee, and he addressed the United Nations on behalf of the people of Southwest Africa. Thereafter, you have the Reverend Theophilus Hamtumbangela, who studied in Transkei in 1943, 44, 45. As a student of theology at Transkei in Mthatha. And he came, I think, interested in ANC politics, as it was then common also in theological seminaries. So on his return, he was ordained, and he encouraged people to study English at the English medium school at St. Mary's, Odimbo. And he also encouraged people to go and study in South Africa. He also wrote petitions to the United Nations, and he was one of the first people to understand Eliezer to handle his vision, and he welcomed him at his mission station at Christ the King on a quiet day. And he took all the names of people whose properties were confiscated at the checkpoint, which we now are fighting as a red line or whatever it is. It was not just a red line, it was also just a checkpoint for people. If they stole something from this side or something, sometimes they didn't steal it. They just, that it was a black man, you cannot possess this type of thing. So you must have stolen it or something, leave it behind. So those are the things that Father Hampton Bangela was able to deal with, and wrote petitions via Angola to the United Nations. Tatekulu Herman Yatoivo used to live with the Hampton Bangela family. And it is clear his political awakening started right there, encouraged him to go to the Union of South Africa to study. But obviously he had to look for some money before he could enroll in any school. And therefore they ended up working in Cape Town with a group of Namibians, starting the Ovambo People's Congress, which then became the forerunner for the OPO, then Southwest Africa People's Organization. So thereafter you have Bishop Mize, who was pacifist in his own way. He wasn't pro-apartheid, but he was willing to work with the government on a personal level. He was not publicly confrontational, but still the government was annoyed, because at some point he had to write a letter to one of people who went in exile earlier, that that their parents died and so on. This letter was intercepted, and for that reason he was declared persona non grata, and then he was succeeded by Bishop Colin Winder, who was also excommunicated. I mean, rather, removed from Namibia. Expelled from Namibia. Yeah, as a result of speaking for the strike, 1992 strike, and supporting the Lutheran bishops. Bishop Awala.
You mean 91 or you're saying 91?
71, sorry.
71,
1971, 72.
Yeah.
91 is when I was really aware of things. Yeah, so in 1971, 72, he supported Bishop Awala of the Lutheran Church, and moderator Paul Goaseb of another Lutheran Church, who authored the open letter. So he said if it was time to speak, then Michael Scott's famous statement, it is now time to listen to these black leaders, because what they are saying must be credible, because they are speaking on behalf of their people. For that reason, he was expelled. And then you had Bishop Wodo, and then Bishop James Kauluma. This is how the church, I can say in summary, started to play in the liberation struggle. There are other clergymen and also some lay people who played a big role in that area.
Absolutely. Now, when you mentioned like Michael Scott, the Reverend, of course, that was prior to the formal start of the liberation struggle of Namibia, because you could say maybe we started in the 60s, starting from the formation of SWAPO proper in 1960, and the first attack in 1966, going forward. So during that period going forward, how do you think the church, your church in particular, worked with the liberation struggle people like Sam Nujoma and others?
Yeah, remember that Sam Nujoma studied at the Anglican school when he came to Windhoek. We had a school called St. Barnabas School. He attended the night school. And also here in St. George's Cathedral, he also attended the correspondence. He did some correspondence work through the Anglican organization. I don't know what it was, but this is where he picked up his proper English, and also picked up some office administrative secretarial work. So he had the connection with the church. And remember, Father Theophilus Antumbangela was removed from the north towards, I think, the end of 1950s. And through to 1960s, he was in Windhoek. So one of the reasons Sam Nujoma was a target of the apartheid regime is because he confronted, and his colleagues confronted the bishop here, John Decker Vincent, then that time, that why did you allow the authority to remove the priest from his wife, from his children, from his work, and you bring him here? It's better if you don't want us to do some funny things to you, send the man to his family.
Well, what was the strategy there around moving him to Windhoek? Was it just a pure administrative thing, or was
he
it
was
political?
apparently agitating people in the north. Remember, there was this Odendal plan. There were stages towards that. There was a particular meeting in Oshikango that said if Swapo took the government, or this, if the whole country became one, as a unitary thing, chiefs and the kings and so on, they will lose their sovereignty, they will lose their power, because this Swapo is a communist, or this communist liberator, so-called. And the Antumbangela had to stand up because he was there. And he said, no, what you are saying is a lie. I was in the Union of South Africa. This is what has been discussed there. Tribal chiefs are not going to lose their authority or their power to govern through traditional means. So this man who was now chairing this meeting was confused because he didn't know there was even somebody who could speak proper English. For that reason, they got so annoyed with him, and they removed him from there, kind of taking him in exile. It was kind of taking him in exile. And that's why he became part of the formation of the OPO. He was part of the formation of the OPO because he was already here then. This is then some of the reasons people like Sam Nujoma and the others said, no, Bishop, you are working together with the Boers. No, this is an Englishman who was at St. George's Cathedral. Please send the man home. And he agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. How, I mean, you have already painted a picture of some sort of danger that people like Antumbangela faced for working towards the goal of independence and whatnot. Is it, and you spoke about the man, was it Colin Winter who was evicted from the country?
Yeah, before we just go there, Colin Winter was expelled as a result of supporting the 1971-72 general strike of the contract laborers. He found the lawyers to represent these people. And they speak against the flogging, this big beating of people with the palm branches by the traditional authorities. And for this reason, the government got very angry with him, and they expelled him out of Namibia. But in protest, he said he was going to be a bishop of Namibia, even if he's in exile. So he has been a bishop in exile. And sometimes he called people on the borders, just on the Angolan borders, Namibians here, and he administered the confirmation.
He operated in Angola? From Angola?
Yeah, he operated from Angola. No, not, he just came for that specific, in protest. If you don't want me to come in Namibia, I will call my people in Angola, and I will do the confirmation there.
I see. Very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
We go for a very short break, and then hold that thought for me, Bishop Katenda, and then you come and address it nicely for me.
Sure.
Be back. We continue our conversation with Bishop Lukas Katenda on the evening review. So the question was then about the risk associated with really working with people like Sam Nujoma and other liberation struggle icons. What was the risk? What did people go through, especially the leaders of your church?
Yeah, this was not just limited to the Anglican Church. It was all over the place. The Lutherans had to suffer, the Roman Catholics, and in the south we had people like the African Methodist Episcopal Church. So in all the denominations that were kind of major, you had some radicals, if you like, who supported the liberation struggle unequivocally, unambiguously. So as I say, in the south we had people like now the Reverend Hendrik Witbooi, who became the vice president of SWAPO, and then the deputy prime minister at some point. He's the late now, my favorite politician, by the way.
Okay.
he was very charismatic to me. And you know, the establishment of this school, AME, community school, I am not so sure how much shall we go in saying and revealing some things.
Yeah.
This school was supported by people from outside of Namibia, and this financial contribution was sought by people like Sam Nujoma, and this money was given to James Kaluma and Cleopas Dumeni, and passed on to Hendrik Witbooi and others in the south to create a school that is not associated with the with the government, so that we teach our own people, our own history, and through our own pedagogy, because many of the Bantu education schools were known to be centers of indoctrination, and many people didn't like this. Zephania Kameta is one of them. He's still alive. He spoke a lot, and he had also to face a lot of tough rebuttal from the apartheid regime. In the Council of Churches, you had Dr. Abishai Sheavali. At one point, he was arrested, and all that. He was a very strong man those years. And in the north, you had people like Philip Shilongo. At Odibo, you had Tate Junius Kapanda at Tsandi. He had to be arrested over and over. Shilongo was arrested too.
Yeah.
And the Roman Catholic priest, Gerhard Heinrichs, had to even go in exile as well. As a German person, he was living with the people in the jungles of Zambia and Angola as a chaplain there. So many people had to suffer at the hands of the regime, because it was always on both sides. When you are seen to be supporting SWAPO, you invited the wrath of the government. When you are suspected to be cooperating with the government, you invite the wrath of SWAPO again. So this was some people were just caught up in a catch-22, whatever they say, in a situation they don't know what to do, because they don't want either to be on that side or on that side, and either way you will be always labeled as belonging to that.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult situation, but many clergymen and women did their best.
Yeah. In what kind of way would anyone be in trouble with SWAPO if they were seen to be sympathetic towards the apartheid regime?
There are two words that I remember were used. You are either a puppet or a collaborator. And the decapitation policy, I hope you know this. It's an open secret. The decapitation policy was used by both the South African government. People disappeared, people were tortured, people were killed, and we call that decapitation. And also, if you were suspected, some people just disappeared because they were puppets, they were collaborators. Somebody died and nobody knows who killed them, except suspicion that they were killed by the guerrillas or something like that. So this decapitation put some people at risk and they lost their lives. But that doesn't mean there is a question about the struggle for independence.
One of the things, Bishop, that you did not mention in this struggle in which your church has actively participated, I don't know whether it was by design or by default, but the role of Bishop, what is the man's name?
You mean Peter Kalangula?
Peter Kalangula.
Yeah, I put a small paragraph there.
Yeah. So his role in the struggle as a respected leader of the Anglican Church remains a matter of national debate. And you seem to be one of those who actually believe that what he was fighting for was right. I think the ambiguity of his role comes from the fact that he was an active DTA member. I think he served in the Obama administration of the DTA of the time. And whoever associated with that regime at the time gets labeled today as an anti-progressive and was against the independence of the country and whatnot. And you don't seem to believe that that was the case.
I expected role players to say that, but I have not heard it from any of the big people in SWAPO and in the liberation struggle. I cannot remember any utterances either by President Nujoma himself or from Hage Geingob or from Herman Yatoivo or from Hidipo Amtenyo, who was then a spokesperson of the movement, to have criticized Peter Kalangula in a way we do, those of us who were not inside of these things. So why didn't they do that, maybe?
So
I cannot remember. Anyone saying Peter was this. Rather, people kept quiet. People who spoke against Peter, those who are on the periphery, I would say. People who know a little in terms of politics. But for me, there was always going to be a difference. People were not all going to be in one room. This is my philosophy. People will always be different. They want to play, but in a different way. So if he played in a different way, I think it was his right.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of President Nujoma, whom we are bearing this coming weekend, the Heroes Acre, what did you know of him? Is there anything in particular that inspired you from his leadership, from his life? Or are you one of the critics who say the man was nothing but a monster of some sort?
And it would be unfair if you said that.
Yes.
Sam Nujoma, in my personal view, he was such a rare character. If you follow how he went in exile and how he reached different people in different countries, in different contexts, speaking on behalf of this small country, small population, unknown people, it just amazes me. I can't imagine myself doing that. But he did. Through Bechuanaland, Rhodesia, Tanganyika, all he wanted to reach wanted to reach Ghana, which got independence first. But through all the journeys that he took, he went up to the United Nations and spoke on behalf of the Namibian people. That alone, that very first journey, to me was just something that is very difficult to understand. For a man who had no university education, a man who just was a railway worker, And this is what he has achieved. And this is what people have noticed in his character, that they elected him to be the president of the party and to lead the people in exile. Imagine organizing the first guns. He came with them, and he organized people to be trained in different countries.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of us can speak even to an ambassador.
Yeah.
Just an ambassador. I can't just approach an ambassador. But
Yeah.
here is Sam Nujoma
Yeah.
doing these things in 1960s.
Yeah.
It blows my mind when I think of him in that context. And leading the people in exile, sending some to school, sending some to military training, mobilizing the international community. Again, I can't think of it. How did they do this? They had no social media, they had no cell phones, they had no nothing.
Yeah.
But here they were very successful in their own way and in their own right. And when independence came, here is a man who tries to lead a very diverse community. And just look at his first cabinet. What did he think? When he says the founder, he's the founder of that state house, he's the founder of all the ministries, the founder of all kinds of things. But there are some people who are educated in Namibia, and they can't even make up their bed when they wake up in the morning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is it amazes me.
Yeah.
We are not saying he was flawless. He was a human being. He had his own misjudgments and missteps, like you and me. We have our own misjudgments and mistakes and sometimes misactions.
Yeah.
But in comparison to what he has achieved as a leader before independence and after independence, can really somebody argue that this man was something of a rare gem?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Bishop, for coming through again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. That is Bishop Lukas Katenda of Reach, Namibia, walking us through the history of the church in Namibia's struggle for independence and how church leaders of the time worked together with the late Sam Nujoma, who is set to be buried this weekend at the Heroes Acre. Thank you for watching.